Alright, so it's been 1 week since the Eagles have lost a big game, and I swear I'm so over the loss and totally not plotting to go full John Wick on the entire referee organization. But even if this past week has been filled with nothing but L's, at least I can get a few W's under my belt, including Jonathan Gannon being ditched by the entire team after the game, and Skrillex deciding to drop another album after 9 godforsaken years. And yes, you heard me right, the mascot for the best Call of Duty kill cams has returned with his latest project, Quest for Fire, this time trying to stray away from the dubstep sound and instead tapping in with new faces to make some absolute bangers. Alright, so the last time Skrillex even dropped an album was back in 2014 with Recess, when he was practically at the peak of his stardom, and the last time I ever bothered to listen to Skrillex was in 2012 when Bangarang was being used for 360 no-scope kills in Modern Warfare. But to see him be able to come back and adapt under a new wave of electronic music is pretty nice, trying to take somewhat of a step away from the dubstep sound that he helped pioneer, and instead going for the more house and trap EDM. And when listening to this album, I can definitely see that he's put his best foot forward, tapping in with Porter Robinson, Fred Again, Fortet, Ellie Kessler, and many more to make some absolute banger tracks such as Butterflies and Rumble. But before I can get into the production, I would have to give credit to the vocals that are sprinkled all over this album, including Flodan, Beam, Stara, Naiborogoti, and Missy Elliott. Now of course we all know Flodan if you heard his previous release Rumble with Fred Again, and I think this was probably one of my favorite tracks off this entire album, really allowing that deep bass to complement Flodan's verses, with his monotone vocals being used to deliver the bass drop that hits just as hard, while the bridge between the verses also serves as some sort of calm before the storm, before brought back down to Flodan. But as for the others, I also really did enjoy Stara on Butterflies. I feel like his vocals were nice and brought a nice vibe to this absolute banger of a beat from Fortet and Skrillex, and made it another one of my favorites from this album as well. And then there was Missy Elliott as well on Ratata, which was an okay track overall, but I guess it was nice hearing her slide through on a more EDM trap style beat. But for sure, I think the most unique track on this album would have to be Gina with Naiborogoti, with it seeming like such a big standout for Skrillex, and an honestly pretty fun track, going for the more deeper energy for the bass drop, and everything just hitting a lot harder than usual, especially on the second half of this album, that I really did enjoy, giving me more deep house vibes than anything else. But as for the production, I initially thought it felt kind of repetitive, but after going through it a bit more, I started to see the little attempts at something fresh that Skrillex was going for, while at the same time tapping into his traditional sounds, such as with the track Hydrate and Supersonic, that seems to go for the more dubstep sound that I thought was cool, but I wouldn't say that they were my favorite tracks, so whatever I guess. But when looking at some of the others, such as the house and dance sounds that we get on Butterflies and Leave Me Like This, I thought those were pretty cool and fun, seeming a bit more easier to digest than tracks like Tears and Inhale Exhale, which instead relies heavily on the trap EDM sound, and also do like the little details that were thrown alongside these beats, such as what seems to be a xylophone towards the end of Butterflies that I feel capped off the song perfectly, or how A Street I Know switches up the sound from the trap to a more fast-paced and high-energy rhythm to finish it off, which I also did enjoy. Or also like how the vocals are played with on Inhale Exhale to complement the hard-hitting bass and make for another banger on this album. But overall, I feel like this is a pretty solid revival for Skrillex after being on and off for these past couple of years. I mean, sure, it isn't perfect because there were some tracks such as Good Space and Supersonic that just didn't click with me at all, but at the same time, there were a fair share of bangers on here that I can definitely see staying in my rotation. So to put this on the scale, I'm giving this a high 7 out of 10, being one of my favorite projects of this month. But how do y'all feel about Skrillex's latest album? What would you rate it? Let me know down in the comments by liking and subscribing, follow my G on Twitter, and follow Chocolate on Instagram for more illustrations. And on that note, I'll see you guys on Monday when I figure out how to revive Shutter Shades and DC sneakers. Peace.
Oh my, JB, I don't think that's chalk.
Nah, bro. This is that organic stuff.
You sure?
It's natural.
Oh.